EOs, happy Thursday to all. Coming at you here live today for a little surprise live training on the topic of confidence. So I want to share with you guys in this live training today as we kick things off here. I'll hang out for a little bit to give some time to jump on, being that this was an impromptu live training today. But as we get into things, we're going to talk about 3 secrets or 3 ways that you can create unstoppable confidence in your business and in your life. So as we get into things here, for those jumping on and tuning in as we kick off, drop a hashtag live below and let me know. And for those watching on the replay, hashtag replay below and let me know. This topic came up actually recently on a call this week that made me want to come in here and share a little bit of preface around this area of confidence, because I had a client of mine where we were talking in a coaching session. He was a little bit unsure on what to say in a conversation and essentially asked me, Blake, what would you say in this instance? And I shared with him the way that I looked at the conversation itself, how I would personally handle the reply and what I would say, and kind of voicing through and talking that out. And he's like, Blake, man, you always know exactly what to say. You always know the perfect thing to say. And this isn't the first time I've heard this before. Now, this isn't me kicking off this live saying Blake is the God that always knows everything, what to say and when to say it and how to say it, because that's not the case. But the point I want to emphasize here is the fact that this wasn't always this way. I didn't always know what to say, when to say, or how to say it. And there was actually a time prior to this, years ago, when I had no clue on what to say. But the difference between now and then, aside from experience, repetitions, and understanding of the different situations and knowing what to say and when, with what I've seen in different ways, also comes through confidence. Because I knew at that moment, that client that I was speaking to knew exactly what to say, but he was unsure on what to say itself. He didn't know for sure if he was going to say the right thing. He didn't know if he was going to say the wrong thing. And that worried him because he wanted to achieve a certain outcome. Same goes for you guys in your business as well. I'm sure there's many instances where you experience the same feeling. Writing a post, going to publish it, and maybe worrying about what other people think. You break past that feeling, and it's going into calls. And maybe offering your first call or inviting someone to chat with you on the phone. You get that first call booked, you jump on the call, worried about what to say. Even 20, 30 calls in. Maybe you even grow your business past 5K a month. And you see somebody else out in the space that you're in as well share a post on how they just had their first X week and you guys started at a similar spot, and you now feel like, man, why am I not here yet itself? We've talked about a lot of these things before, but a big thing I want to drill into in today's presentation is the fact that a lot of this comes from and stems from lack of belief and confidence within our own abilities. Now, there's a variety of ways that we can increase the confidence in our day-to-day life, in our business, and what we do. Having clarity in what we need to execute on with our business alone creates confidence, because we now don't have to guess on what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But beneath that clarity is still belief and confidence. Because even if we know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and we have the most developed support system around us, if we aren't feeding ourselves with things that instill and create confidence in our business and our life, we are in turn going to fall back to self-doubt, indecisiveness, worry, fear, all of these things. Now, I'll be the first to say, as I mentioned here earlier in the live, confidence was not always my strong suite. And I actually talked on this pretty in depth in a recent YouTube video on 3 ways that fitness actually helped me build a multiple 6-figure business, a lot of which stemmed through belief and confidence through fitness itself. So I'm not going to go into those 3 things here today, but I will link that YouTube video below for those that want to check this out. I highly encourage those that are looking for value on this topic that I'm talking on today and find what we're diving into straight away here helpful. Definitely check out the YouTube video that I have to pair with this, because it's going to really give you full circle a great perspective on how you can start instilling and developing confidence in your business and life straight away. But there's 3 things aside from what I mentioned in this YouTube video that are going to be very helpful that I want to get into here today. And that first piece is changing the frame. So what I'm going to do here at this time is pull up a simple mind map to walk through these 3 areas. This way you guys can visually see what I'm referring to and what I mean by this. So we see change the frame, block it in the present, block it from the present, route it from the past. What the hell do I mean by this? Let's walk through it and break it down. Changing the frame. When I say changing the frame, I'm simply meaning here, change the behavior. Because oftentimes we don't see that confidence can be developed as a skill. You guys look at Blake back here behind this live video presenting in front of you right now thinking, man, Blake has it made. He knows exactly, like he's the epitome of confidence. He's up here speaking confidently, serving us, all of these things. And he was born this way. He's a prodigy. He always had this skill, etc. Maybe some of you don't think this. But I know that myself early on, when I watched other people that were levels above me, I looked up at them. I looked at them present in video, perhaps on a stage, other people that I watched. And I was like, man, how can I have that? How can I get up and confidently speak my voice and my story? Provide value, all of these things, and do it with confidence and belief and conviction. And like I mentioned early on, there was many times to start where this seemed so far away that I didn't think it would ever be possible. Talked a little bit about this in that YouTube video I mentioned, but there was a moment for me, even going back into my senior year of high school, way back, at this time when I was in speech class. We had to go and basically do speech class. It was for a semester long. Every single week we had to give a speech. And there was one topic that I hated the most, and that was impromptu speeches, because there was no way that I could prepare for them. I got called out by name on the room. Blake, come to the front of the class. Blake, pick a topic randomly out of the hat, and Blake, speak on that topic here today. You got no time to think about it. You just got to speak. I could not stand it because I was so worried about what is this other person going to think of me? What are my other classmates going to think when I say these things? What if I don't know what to say? What if I freeze up? What if this? What if that? And what happened because of it? I didn't even give myself a chance. I stood up in front of the room, pausing, stuttering, shaking, worrying, and walked away from the short presentation that I gave feeling like a disappointment, feeling like I wasn't good enough, feeling like I just did exactly what I didn't want to do going into the speech itself. And the same transferred into later on in my life when I first got into pursuing my goal of growing an online business. See, for me, as I started to get into fitness, this was a big component in instilling new levels of confidence and belief in myself, which I break down in that YouTube video. But there's 3 things aside from that today, what we're looking at right here, that made a massive difference. And number 1, it's starting by changing the frame. Changing the way that we are presenting ourselves to whatever that we're facing. So I went into that speech, for example, at the time, saying, you know what if I do this? What if I freeze up? What if this happens? What if that happens? Immediately, by me framing myself in this instance, framing myself in a negative way, there was no way that I was going to have any positive moments when going in front of that class because I already cut myself short. I already framed it negatively. I lost the first battle. And the first battle is changing the frame. Same goes for business. Those first initial posts, those first initial calls, or maybe those calls that you have where you just maybe last month closed a couple sales and now you've gone through 5 calls straight with 5 rejections. And you're like, man, what is going on? Why am I in this slump? How can I get out of this and turn this around? And you go into the call and you tell yourself, man, it's time for me to change this today, but what if this happens like last time too? What if I get the same outcome or the same rebuttal or the same response or the same rejection as I did in the previous 5 calls? And what happens because of it? You go into this call, attach the outcome, pre-framing yourself around the negative aspects of what could come based on what happened in the past, and the same thing happens. But if we can simply create awareness around the frames that we are telling ourselves daily and the small things that we do, when we're writing content, when we're having conversations, when we're hopping on calls, when we're inviting someone to work with us, we have to work to instill and develop within ourselves the ability to look openly towards it, the ability to frame the outcome and what we're doing in a positive way, to remind ourselves that, hey, we don't have to be perfect. It's okay if we get told no. But we're going to go into this giving our best shot, and we know that if we do that, we're putting ourselves in the best position to get more yeses. Very small things like this, especially early on, make a massive difference in our perception towards anything that we face in business and life. Because oftentimes when we're in that spot of fear, discomfort, worry, question, it ripples into our future and other areas and other things that we pursue, and we continue to cling on to that negative frame, pulling it into our future ventures and blocking ourselves from actually being able to achieve what we want to achieve because we're already cutting ourselves short. So step number one, for those of you feeling like you're lacking confidence in your business right now, or maybe today you have great confidence, but yesterday you felt it was a little bit off or a little bit low. We want to try to create consistency within this. We want to create level within ourselves. We want to level our confidence out more than anything else. If we're unlevel and always teeter-totting, it's a bunch of highs and lows. And although the growth of building an online business and taking it from zero to wherever you're looking to take it to is going to have many highs and lows along the way, it's this stuff that's the foundation to picking yourself up and not letting those bad days turn into bad weeks, bad months, and long stretches of downward spiral. So step number one is change the frame. And to help you guys with this, I don't want this to be just another video that you guys watch in a Facebook group and you say, oh man, I got some breakthroughs from what Blake said in this. Awesome. I want you guys to take action today. Take action on what I'm talking about here today. So whether you share this in the comments or you write it on a piece of paper right now, take the rest of the day today and ask yourself, what's one thing that I find myself negatively framing within my business? Let's just narrow the focus just to business for this instance itself. So is it going into messenger conversations? Is it going into calls? Is it going into publishing content? Whatever it is within your business itself, what do you find yourself negatively framing most? And how can you flip that negative frame into a positive affirmation? Because remember, one tiny belief that we have can ultimately turn into a liberating truth that we possess. That seems like it's the only way that it is. So if we have the one belief that our entire friends list, for example, if we're growing our business on Facebook, is filled with unqualified prospects because we've had a couple bad messenger conversations and because we got rejected a few times, do you think that any opportunity that we go into tomorrow or the next day, when we go to have conversations with people in our friends list or off of our content, is going to turn into anything? Probably not. Because internally, we're already psyching ourselves out and telling ourselves, you know what? There's no opportunities in my friends list. There's nothing here. I can't do anything. I got to start from scratch. And all that's doing is procrastinating ourselves back to the beginning stages so we can feel like, yeah, we're going to do this right this time. But in reality, you can do it right now. And there's opportunities in your friends list right now that you could be leveraging and taking advantage of and working with. But since you're negatively framing it, there's no way there's a chance for them to make that happen. But if you start to change the frame, you'll quickly see that this can completely change the outcomes. Next up, block it from the present. So when I say block it from the present, what do I mean by that? This is where we need to protect our energy. And let me put this here. Because it's one thing to change the frame and change the self-talk. This alone is going to make a massive difference in the way that we look at things within our business and our life. But it's another thing to actually protect ourselves from the outside variables that are coming into play to drain this energy and to drain this confidence. This can come in a variety of ways. For example, watching the news, being exposed to negative events in the news, that in turn is automatically making you feel negative, perhaps making you go into business feeling negative, going into life feeling negative, talking about these negative current events, that's just creating a ripple effect itself. This is one thing that I cut out years ago in my life of consuming less news sources itself and news articles, because oftentimes every single article we see on any news platform is always a headline around some negative outcome to grab our attention and to pull us in, and then from there fill us up with this negativity. This is how the news stations pull so much attention itself. And it becomes toxic in a sense. And there's a variety of ways that this ripples into as well. Not just the news, but the circle of friends that you hang around with. You all have heard the phrase, you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with most. You'll hear the story exactly in my journey to a T on how I put myself in a position to fail with this thing when you watch that YouTube video. Because for me, when I share that story, I talked on a lot of times early on how I was putting myself in a position to fail because I didn't have the circle in place that I have now. I was surrounding myself with negative things around me. And that in turn got me into doing drugs, drinking more than what I would normally do, putting myself in bad situations, getting in trouble with the law, doing all these things that weren't really me. But at the time they felt like me because I was trapped into this circle that I was not supposed to be in. But I put myself in that circle. The only way for me to get myself out of that circle is to start to be aware of what are these things that are pulling my energy. And how can I start blocking this away from my present life? So when I say block it from the present, more than anything, I'm emphasizing the fact that it's very important for us to protect our energy and confidence. Take away the leeches that pull that confidence out of us, because every single day we're exposed to more and more things that are going to leech onto us and try to drain that from us itself. So if we pump ourselves up by changing the frame, but we're not blocking out the obstacles that are leeching and pulling that confidence from us in the present, we're really not doing ourselves any favor. Pair those two together and we're already in a great spot to start instilling greater confidence. Same with business. You guys may have seen me pull up before on my Facebook, Newsfeed Eradicator. Let's go to here and show it quickly. What happens when you go to my home feed? When I'm not looking to consume content on my home feed, there's times of the day when I am, times of the day when I'm not. But more than often, I have this turned on because I am protecting my energy. Because I don't want to get hit by a bunch of random posts, a negative post, something that could pull my energy or pull my focus from what I'm doing at that time. This is a small example of a tool that I have in place in my daily workflow that's protecting my energy and keeping my focus on the big picture. Not to mention, it's also giving me a nice, friendly quote to help me further instill confidence, belief, and positivity within my life rather than negativity. So you see, when we're on Facebook and we're scrolling through a home feed, I've heard this with many clients before. And everybody's a little bit different when it comes to the way that they perceive this and the way that it feels towards them. Some people scroll through their home feed, like in an example I mentioned before, and they see someone that started at a similar point to their journey as them that just got this massive win. And they don't like to see that that person won and they didn't win yet today. So in turn, that drains their confidence, drains their energy. And the rest of the day, they're going into conversations, going into calls, doing activities in their business from the wrong state of mind. Already selling themselves short, already hunting for that result because they feel like, man, I'm not as good enough as this other person I just saw get this win. I'm behind them. I got to catch up. They get pushier. They try to make things happen. And as a result, they get disappointed because they get rejected and they wonder, why am I not like so-and-so that just did this? How can I not give a live presentation like Blake did here? All of these things. We have to remind ourselves that we really, more than anything, number one, need to stay in our own lane because everybody's at a different point in our journey. But we have to protect our energy and our confidence because there's going to be leeches every single day with all that we're hit by, all that we're exposed with, from social media to news, to friends, to coworkers, to life, to family, whatever it may be. We have to be very careful with who we pick to put around us, knowing that we need to understand that we have to protect that energy itself. So blocking it from the present is also super key. And this comes down to being aware of what is draining your energy. So action item number 2 today, we talked on action item number 1, which is asking yourself one thing that you can start to change your self-talk on within your business. Action item number 2 is, what's one thing within your business or your life that is blocking your energy, or that's pulling your energy or leeching off of your energy and confidence itself? What's one thing draining your confidence? Let me know in the comments if you're willing to share. If not, write this down on a piece of paper as an action item for today's live. I want you guys to walk away from this live feeling good, feeling confident, and not just fake motivation and confidence that you walk up and feeling good just for a couple hours after this live. I want to help you guys create sustainable shifts within what I'm talking about here today. So what's one thing right now in the present, in your day-to-day life, that you notice worries you, that makes you feel like, man, I'm not good enough, that makes you feel like, man, I wish I was this, or makes you feel like, man, am I doing the right thing? Whatever it may be. Like I said, everybody's triggered by different things. It's up for you to look into yourself today and ask yourself, okay, what is leeching from my energy? What's pulling my confidence? And if you take some time to presently think about this today and right now, I guarantee you'll be able to pull up not just one thing, but a list of many things. Maybe it's the news, like I mentioned before, one simple thing. Maybe you just watched the news this morning and you saw a headline around a tragic event that happened and it made you feel sad and down. If that's the case, take a news dive for the next 3 weeks and see the impact that it has in your life. We're pulling out variables in our life that are causing this negative energy, and we're testing to see, what is my life like without this thing in it? If it's better and more positive, keep it out. Lastly, to complete this 3-step process, rob it from the past. So when I mean rob it from the past, I want to start by asking you guys, what's one moment you remember in your life, you recall, where you followed through and created the outcome you wanted with confidence? Some of you may have a variety of business examples here that you want to pull into and tap into this question right away. Maybe it was the first sale that you made, where you confidently asked the question after getting rejected 5 times before. And you went into this opportunity and said, you know what? I know I haven't made this first sale, but I know I got to continue to invite people to work with me and do it genuinely if I want to put myself in a position to make this happen. So you did it one time and you didn't worry about the script. You didn't worry about perfecting the process. And you went into it feeling good with a smile on your face, ready to accept whatever came to you after that call. And at the end of it, you got a yes. If that was your instance, I want you to channel back to that moment today and try to vividly recall in as much detail as possible what you did before that event happened, how you felt after that event happened, and what that event was itself. And the next time you face anything where you feel like, man, I'm being triggered in a negative way, or you're going into that next sales call that you're doing, rather than reminding yourself in the previous one where maybe you got rejected, remind yourself on that call you had X amount of times ago where you got accepted. Because that alone is going to make a massive difference in your perception. It could also be life, sports, anything in the past. What I just talked on in my YouTube video recently was me coming out of the darkest point of my life and how fitness helped me get out of that and start to instill and develop confidence, which ultimately allowed me and taught me lessons that helped me build the business that I built today. What did I do at that moment when I made that video, and to this day since? Robbing the confidence from the past. I remember how that moment, that transformation that my fitness journey brought me from that dark place, when life was feeling so negative and so stuck, when I looked open-minded towards what was ahead, when I became aware around what was blocking me in the present, the circle of people that I was within and how that was draining me. And when I started to change those frames and instill first in that myself within fitness, that fitness transformation bred confidence. by pulling all these three things together. So what can I do now is rob that moment from the past where I made that shift happen and I felt that confidence come to life. This is what I'm meaning here. It doesn't have to be the first win in business or the 5th sale that you made in your business or the first lead that you generated or the first call you booked. It can be all those things, but if you don't have any wins in business right now, it can also be things from your life before. The point is, what I'm talking on here today applies to those of you that are at 0 with your business and those of you that are at 20K plus with your business. Because the reality is there's always going to be moments of dips in confidence. It's our awareness and our ability to hedge those dips and pick ourselves back up and remind ourselves of these things that allows us to stay as level as possible and reduce those dips so we can keep growing and moving forward. So going full circle here again, change the frame, block it from the present, rob it from the past. Deploy these 3 things today. And if you haven't already, share your responses to the action items they gave. If this has an impact on you, if you feel like, you know what, I did these 3 things today, I actually took action on what I learned in this free training today, let me know. Drop me a message and let me know, man, Blake, this had an impact on my confidence. I feel much better. I just closed my first sale. Because I guarantee it's going to create ripple effects like that in your business and in your life if you choose to accept it and deploy this going forward. We got to be very careful with who we spend our time with, how we talk to ourselves, and how we're perceiving ourselves as a whole. Even small things like listening to people that haven't done what we want to do. Listening to people that aren't qualified to give us advice, that we feel like, yeah, this person's close to me, I'm friends with them, I should listen to them. That small thing alone could be draining our energy. So choose very wisely who you choose itself to put your time around and who you choose to spend time with. Be selective with what you're exposed to daily. And remind yourself of these 3 things going into not just the end of this week, but next week and the weeks ahead. And again, those that got value from this video here today, hashtag value below and let me know. Hopefully this helps a few of you here today, maybe dealing with lower confidence today itself, or maybe you dealt with it early on this week. Because again, this is something that doesn't just go away and go away forever. Like I mentioned early on, yes, I'm much more confident than what I was years ago, and it took a lot of repetition, a lot of reminders of things like this to help instill that confidence. But there's still days where confidence isn't where I want it to be. But it's stuff like this, systems like this that I can fall back to and pick myself up from to remind myself of the big picture and to not lose sight of where I'm going in the direction I'm headed. Because when we do that, that's when we start being someone that we're not and we go down a bad spiral. But when we can tap into this, we can start tapping into our true self and being our best self as a whole. So with that said, again, aside from getting value from this live, which I hope that each and every one of you did, for those that have not yet checked out the recent YouTube video I did where I talked on 3 ways that fitness helped me take my side hustle to a full-time 6-figure business, be sure to check that out in the comment section below. If you want me to link you directly, just comment YouTube below and I will link you on that video. But otherwise, I will be sure to link that in the comments here as soon as I jump off in the live here shortly. So thanks again for watching. Hope you all have a great afternoon ahead and look forward to seeing you back tomorrow for a 5-Minute Friday here to close out the week.